Hello, and thank you for joining us for this CalfordSeaden seminar. This is a recording of a live event held in June 2020, and it's presented by the CalfordSeaden BIM Manager Varun Soni. We hope you enjoy watching. Please get in touch using the details at the end of the recording if you have any questions or you'd like to register for future events.
This is just a little bit of an agenda of what we're going to go through today. We're going to start off with a little introduction to CalfordSeaden, and then I'm going to go on to talk to you about BIM, the definition of BIM, level of different levels of BIM, and the benefits that you'll receive from it, and then look at the current industry approach and the need for building transformation in digital transformation in the building safety case. I'll then talk to you a little bit about the BIM services that CalfordSeaden offer and show you the projects that we're currently working on. And then at the end of it, we'll be able to get together to have a little sing along and go through some questions. A little bit about CalfordSeaden. CalfordSeaden is a award-winning multidisciplinary organisation, and they've been around for a long time. We do work on many different areas within the industry, from architecture to building surveying to employees agency to MEP and sustainability. Today we're going to really focus on the BIM area, and if you've got any other questions about the services that we offer, my details are at the end of the presentation, so please just feel free to get in touch with me. So a little bit about myself. I head up the BIM team at CalfordSeaden. I've been around in using BIM for over 10 years now. And my projects so far are ranging from about 2 to 1.2 billion at the moment. My experience varies. So I started off in the design field, went into construction and asset management whilst using BIM. And I've worked in both the public and private sector when it's come to being a BIM manager. Currently, I chair the UK BIM for Housing Association Working Group. I also am one of the co-leads of the UK BIM Alliance, and I sit on their executive team. The UK BIM Alliance are the advisors to the government, and have been advising on everything BIM in the Building Safer Future consultation. These are just a few of the clients that we're currently working with when it comes to BIM. And the reason I put this up there was just so that you can see that we do offer many different services when it comes to BIM that do work for many different types of organisations, from local councils to the housing association and contractors. CalfordSeaden is a BIM accredited organisation. We are Lloyd's registered, accredited for BIM level 2 as a tier 1 consultant. This accreditation is known for being probably one of the most difficult to obtain. Before this, we had a BSI accreditation, but the Lloyd's Register one is very thorough, and it looks at how our whole organisation works. And with that, it looks at the processes that we use. Just to stop the presentation there, if somebody's got their microphone on, could they please just turn it off just for the duration of the presentation? Thank you. So what is BIM? How do we define it? Many of you would have heard people say, oh, we do BIM, we do Revit. BIM is not Revit. BIM is not just about 3D modelling. The best way to remember BIM is it's a digital collaborative way of designing, constructing and operating a building virtually. The key to BIM is information. So although BIM stands for Building Information Modelling or Management, the best way to understand BIM is better information management. It's about creating the golden thread of information from the start of a project to the end of that asset's life cycle. There are many different levels of BIM. The one that we're currently working at within this industry is level 1. Level 1 is where we tend to give our information in 2D DWGs, which is an AutoCAD format, or PDFs. There's not really a lot of communication and a lot of guidance and coordination between teams. So it does prove to become quite a way of having information that's lacking and not as detailed as what you would get in level 2. And we also find that clients don't always get the value that is required. in a design from level 1. When you go on to level 2, this is where we get 3D coordinated models. This is where all design teams work in 3D. They share information, they share their models weekly or bi-weekly, depending on the project. And once they're doing this, you find that you get better visualization, a better understanding of a design of a building. You have a full virtual concept of exactly how a building is going to be constructed on site. From that, what you end up getting is you get clients understanding and making better informed decisions, greater quantity takeoffs, because you've got a more accurate model where you can get more accurate information from it to work out exactly how much your building is going to cost. We also find that you have things like clash detection that can take place, identifying where there's going to be risks and where there's going to be issues on site before they're even going to happen, allowing you then to factor in that either we're going to need more time on site or actually resolve issues before they even go onto site, which means that you'll have less wastage of material. At the end of this, when a building's handed over, a model federated, which is combined of all the design team models, is brought together and handed as well to the client, and they have that digital record of information. Level 3 is somewhere we're not really at currently, but that is where the industry will be trying to head towards. This is where we only have one model and we have all the teams working into this one model and feeding into this one model. We are some way off that. There's a lot of issues when it comes to PI insurance, etc. right now, and ownership of model, but that is where the future is going to take us. So when we talk about BIM, we all want to know what the benefits are. What we do find is visualizations are so much better improved. Clients are able to make more informed decisions because they're actually able to see a building better. That it's not on 2D, it's in 3D. They can walk through it, they can see spaces, they can use technology such as virtual reality to put goggles on and actually walk through the space as if they were there, which allows them to then make improved decisions. What that also means is design teams get to work better. They can collaborate better with 3D models. They can share information. They can share their models. They can talk about information in a more detailed manner where people are able to understand it. That communication and collaboration allows you to then run things like clash detection, and that clash detection then allows you to work out where there's going to be issues and stop them before they even happen. The reduction of errors then that occurs on site is very minimal in comparison to what it would be on a traditional build. But what you also find is there's a reduction of wasting of materials. There's you have a better understanding of what is needed on site and when it's needed. You could use stuff like 4D planning, where using programs such as Bluebeam, you can work out exactly how long it's going to take for a concrete pour to take place for a foundation, how many trucks you're going to need, and at what stage. And all this information allows you to make better decisions and saving on costings. And that's what leads to better cost efficiencies. You also find that there's less claims and disputes because there's a more understanding of exactly what's going to be built from start to finish. And the information that's handed over means that asset teams can actually look after a building far greater and far more efficiently than they could in traditional processes. Currently, what we find in the industry, and this is actually taken from a host of our clients that we're working with currently, when we ask them, how do you currently find your asset information, your O&M manuals, how do you actually access them, what information do you find? This is a lot of the stuff that they were saying. So one of my favorites is O&M manuals were in a different language, so they couldn't actually understand them. The other one was the fact that they don't know if their asset information is up to date, so they just go out and get a new survey every time they've got a refurb project, or they can't open their file because it's in a format they didn't really know, and they don't have that software on their computer, and their IT won't put it in so that they can't access this information. And then we have other clients that say, we know we've got the information, we just don't know where it is. It's on an email, and I've got thousands of emails to go through, so I can't find it. Then ask them to talk to us about design and build and how they perceive what a design and build project is like currently in the industry. and this is working in traditional methods without BIM. And they found that they weren't able to give a detailed brief. So the client gives a limited scope of information about what they actually want. Although they are delivering, they're wanting something delivered, they're not always getting what they want delivered. When the contractor comes on board, they find that discussions about value engineering soon become changes to work and an increased number of claims going in for more money, and it's not really catered for. So they don't really have the money in the budget for all these changes they would like to make. Then what we also find is that defects, the contractor has a get out fast mentality, and that's to say that when that information of defects is handed over, they don't get an opportunity to go through and find out exactly where performances have been bad. So when you look at if we take boilers or taps for an example, you know, we've got a site of 100 houses and 50 of those houses have to have the taps replaced. They don't get an understanding, a client doesn't get an understanding of if that manufacturer is actually able to perform well and if their taps are working well. So then they don't know whether it's going to be the better tap to use on the next site that they use. And there's not really a lessons learned as well about what could have been done differently from client and contractor side to know how they can do better in the next in the next project that they actually work on. So what is the need for a digital transformation? The Hackett report, it identified that there was a need for a golden thread of information and a single source of truth. So what they meant by this is that there was one area where you would be able to get all the information of a life cycle of a project from start to its end. This is going to be part of the Building Safer Future consultation, and the Building Safer Future consultation has stated that this will be a mandated area. It will be required on all resi assets, so all residential assets over 18 metres and 6 stories will have this requirement to be able to deliver BIM, and we'll go on to that shortly. And this will then form part of the building safety case. So what is the building safety case? Well, the building safety case is basically being able to justify why your building is safe and have supporting evidence and material to show that the building is safe, that the building conforms to fire regulations and it has been properly checked by a building safety regulator. The safety regulator is it's a new role that's been set up by the HSE, and they'll be taking ownership on actually performing this role the whole time. And it's all about promoting competency within the industry. So they're going to be more thorough in trying to challenge design, construction and management standards on projects. And it's going to be part of the 5 gateways that they look at handover. We need to have this core digital record of information at handover, otherwise a building wouldn't pass the safety case. And then when we've got existing buildings, it wouldn't pass if we don't have that up to date as an audit trail. So in the building safety case, phase 1 of the safety case looks at 6 stories and 18 plus meters, including existing buildings. Now, there has been talk as part of the consultation that will the existing buildings require this in 2 years or 5 years, and that's still up for debate, but it does seem to be that a lot of the indications are pushing towards the next 2 years of trying to get these existing buildings into rotation and working with BIM. At handover, what will be required is BIM level 1 for existing buildings, so 2D digital drawings and COBie data. What you will also need to have is that golden thread of information and that single source of truth. So that single source of truth is something called a common data environment, which you would need to house, or somebody who does your stock condition surveys would need to house. On new builds, they're expecting that 3D BIM will be used for BIM level 2, along with COBie data. That COBie data is your digital record. That's that golden thread of information that we talk about. This information will be verified and checked by the building safety regulator before handover, and then whilst you're actually working on your asset, they will also be checked. There is no clear understanding yet of how often it will be checked, but they will be checked, they will be audited. you must have a digital audit trail, and all asset owners will be held accountable for this information to be produced. So how are you actually going to get there? Well, in order to be able to produce this digital information and this digital audit trail, you need to have a few bits of core information and documentation available in your organization. The first one is your organization information requirements, which basically sets out at a higher level why you're actually doing this. So why do you want BIM? What is the vision? Is it for building safety? Is it for cost efficiencies? And that's where that gets defined. That allows you to then define your asset information requirements, which are known as the AIRs. The asset information requirements really take into what is the building safety case, what do you actually require for the building safety case, and how does it need to be handed over to the asset team. The EIRs are called the exchange information requirements, also known as the employer information requirements, and basically what they ask for is everything that the AIRs need. They ask for it in a specific format and how, in what level of information and level of detail for it to be able to work. With that also comes a COBE template, which is basically the international standard of breaking down all this information. It's a spreadsheet version, so it's an Excel format, and this would then work with all computer-aided facility management programs. So you'd be able to put this into Apex or Keystone, whichever one you use. What we would also get is, when we're working on a project, a BIM execution plan, and this would be a response by the design team or contractor, depending on where we are in the project, to say this is how we will deliver BIM to you. In order to bring on a design team or a contracting team, what we need to do is we need to ensure their capability. So capability assessments would always be sent out beforehand, and they would be checked by your information manager on a project. So this leads on to the services that calfordseaden actually offer. One of the areas that we do a lot of work in is the consultancy and implementation, which is basically coming into the organization, developing them standards, developing them those core documents, and training you in how to use them documents. We tend to work on a lot of projects as well, where we're working as information managers. So working on a project, gathering that information, ensuring it's validated, ensuring it meets the digital requirements that are needed, that are set out within the EIRs and AIRs at handover. Our design teams all work in BIM as well, and they are in the architecture, MEP and structural areas. They work in new builds, and they also work on a lot of the projects we have currently upgrading assets as well. And they have a lot of experience in that. We also do a lot of BIM coordination, so working for contractor side, working as coordinators, bringing teams together to collaborate. And it's quite unique because our teams work as coordinators at the same time as working as information managers, and it allows us to bring both the client side requirements and also the contractor side requirements together, so that it's quite easy for them to deliver exactly what the client needs. And we found that that's been really helpful in a lot of the projects we're working on. Our quantity surveyors are also BIM proficient. They do a lot of their 5D costing and quantity takeoffs from BIM models currently. And we also have that unique service where we actually have BIM and asset management, where we're doing stock condition surveys. We're able to update stocks and BIM models and actually take them and continue that audit trail. So these are just a couple of the projects we're currently working on. So this is the Clapham Park estate, where we're working for Metropolitan in implementing BIM, but we're also working on a host of their projects as information managers. So on Clapham Park, this is one of the core ones where we not only are information managers, we're also BIM coordinators for the contractor. And we found that we are able to work together quite well to then bring all that information together, bring the client's requirements together with the contractor requirements, and ensure that design teams and the contractor are able to deliver what is actually required.
We're also working on the shredded wheat project, which is
quite a unique project. Obviously, the old shred wheat building, as well as the transformation of 1,500 new homes, which is an amazing project to be a part of. This was Metropolitan's first project in BIM, and so far, touch wood, it's going very well. Contractors have been very open in trying their best to push BIM on this, and it's their first project as well, contractor side, so it's been quite interesting. The Ashmore estate, although it doesn't hit the building safety requirements, Metropolitan have a vision of delivering all of their projects in BIM, regardless of what the building safety case is, just so that should any changes occur later on with phase 2, phase 3 and phase 4 of building safety cases, at least they'll be prepared with that golden thread of information and that single source of truth. And then this is West of Hope Gardens, which is another BIM project. We actually came onto this project quite late, so it's stage 3, but we've still been able to gather COBE information, which has been really key. So Edith Summerskill is a refurb project. Again, we've been brought on quite early into this project, and what we've been able to do is work out exactly what requirements we need digital wise, create a digital safety record, and also get that COBE information captured, as well as creating a 3D model. Thank you for listening. I hope that was helpful. Should you have any questions, please just let me know.